Wendy, thank you for participating in our 2022 WhistleStop political rally. By purchasing a video interview, you have allowed our chamber to educate the citizens of Polk County about the upcoming election and the issues and candidates on the ballot. Thank you. Since your campaign has purchased this video, the Florida Division of Elections does require you to disclose that fact with the following statement.
So this video is being purchased by the campaign to elect Wendy Schmelling for U.S. House of Representatives.
Perfect. So we're going to start with a few questions. So let's start with just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a teacher by trade. I've been teaching for 20 years, and I am currently a teacher in Polk County. Of course, we're on the last final days of summer break here. We go back on August the 3rd. And for the last 20 years, I've been watching brokenheartedly from the front lines of the classroom as our children have been indoctrinated. Now, we're a little sheltered in Florida, as you know, thankfully to our great governor, Ron DeSantis, who has blocked things like CRT and has kind of put some teeth to that in a recent legislative bill that he signed. However, I'm going to tell you, and I had this conversation with someone last night at a rally, and she did not want to believe me. She was a teacher. She said, there's no such thing. It doesn't exist in our schools. And I said, I can give you 3 examples from last school year. She didn't want to hear a single one of them. But basically, my stance is I want to abolish the Department of Education when I go to Washington, because it's a violation of the 9th and 10th Amendments of our Constitution. Education is not in the Constitution, and therefore it should remain and be retained by we the people in order of the 9th Amendment, which is the Popular Sovereignty Amendment, and then, of course, the 10th Amendment, the States' Rights Amendment. So that's one of the major parts of my platform. But we'll get into more of that later. That's just more about me. Is I've been a teacher. I'm also an ordained minister. And I also have been an unashamed Christ follower from the time that I was a teenager. I originally grew up in upstate New York, but moved to the South when my parents divorced in the mid 80s. So I've been kind of Southernized, if you will. People tell me my New York accent slips out from time to time, I guess. But basically, I started my teaching career in South Carolina and then moved to Florida in 2009. And I taught in Orange County and then Polk County public schools. So that's a little bit about my background.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So we spent the better part of the last year hearing about redistricting. And District 18 is essentially a new district in this area. And Winter Haven is the largest municipality represented within it. How do you plan to engage with your local community while traveling back and forth to DC?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I remember from long ago is candidates used to get together with their constituents within their local communities, whether it was like a summer picnic or, a meet and greet at, a specific place like the Chamber of Commerce or whatever. So that is what I want to do quick sidebar, I'm a civics and history teacher. And so I'm kind of a civics and history nerd, if I'm telling on myself. Not in a positive way, right? Because there's this negative connotation. I just absolutely love our history and our foundational history and our documents that go with it. So I am of the mindset that a servant leader is who we need in political office. That's the goal that the founding fathers wanted. Their goal for Congress was to have people from among we the people, from everyday walks of life, from all the trades folks, professionals, et cetera, from our everyday communities to go and serve, 1 or 2 terms and, follow the lead of George Washington, right? He only served 2 terms. When they tried to get him to do a third, he was like, nope, I'm not going to be a king. And so that even though there's no term limits in the Constitution, that's kind of the bedrock that our first president was setting for everybody, is to say, okay, we should do 1 or 2 terms and then go back to our lives. And it's not this mindset of I'm better than you, or, I'm the government now that you've hired me. And we've lost that along the way because of the idea, because there is no term limits, because of career politicians. We've lost that humility, I think, in the office of Congress. And we need to bring it back. And I think this year, there's more candidates that are America First candidates that are willing to do just that and say, look, I'm going to put my life on hold. I'm going to put my life on pause, and I'm going to go and I'm going to serve. And for me as a teacher, I've been a public servant as a teacher for 20 years. I've been doing ministry for over 20 years. So I've been a public servant in that area as well. And that's just how I am as a person. So I just extend it to, how Jesus lived. And that was, he was a servant leader, right? He washed the disciples' feet, but he also led them. So it comes to the point of where you lead with your people, not ahead of them or behind them. You're right there with your people. So as I've been meeting people throughout the district in all the cities, I'm giving out my personal cell phone number to folks because I'm not a celebrity. I'm not anybody famous or, I'm not above anyone. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm one of you. I have to budget for my life. I'm a teacher. Teachers don't get paid as much as everybody thinks they get paid. And so I'm right there. I know I'm right there in the trenches with everybody. I know, how costly gas is right now, especially, candidates. We're having to run back and forth across our districts, and District 18 is ginormous. So, I mean, I'm filling up like 3 times a week. So it's a lot. So I'm just going to relate to the people. One of the things I want to do, because we have district weeks. So every month there's a district week that you come back from Washington. So you're basically there for 3 weeks, right? Legislating. Then you come home to your home district. And I want to highlight a different community, 2-3 times a week in that district week that I'm here. I say 2 or 3 times a week because, there's some office time you have to do too, but I feel like it's more important to be among your constituents than sitting behind a desk, right? That's the most important thing. So, so I'm planning on organizing that, saying, hey, Winter Haven, who wants me to come? Where are we going to meet? And set that up. And then in the months that we have all district months, which is the month of August and the month of October, I want to do a big, get together across I'll have to do like probably 2 different ones because the district is so big. So one maybe in the northern part, one in the southern part. I want to have, like, I don't know what you would call it, a picnic, a pig roast, a barbecue for the communities at large, and say, hey, come on out, let's sit down, let's have some, food together, let's, break bread together, let's talk, let's, ask me questions, give me your concerns, because I think that's the most important thing, is to stay connected with the people that voted you in. You can't just send out an email, once in a blue moon and expect to stay connected to your constituents. And you have to be able to answer your constituents. And I know, sometimes it gets impossible with so many emails coming in, so many phone calls. So when you're in DC, you're going to need, assistance to help you with that. But, right now on my campaign, I'm answering every email, every phone call. And I know I'm grassroots candidate, so it's on a manageable level right now, but I want to be in touch with the people as much as humanly possible, because, the whole idea of being a representative is to, common sense, represent, right? Be there for the people and talk to them and work with them and inform them and ask their concerns and what can I do for you? So that's my goal all the way.
Awesome. So what do you believe should be the top 3 priorities of Congress for the upcoming year?
So education is a huge issue right now across the nation. Even Senator Ted Cruz said it recently himself, that it's, and Dr. Alveda King, who's the niece of the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., she has even said it as well, that it's the civil rights issue right now of our time. And I think with COVID, everybody realized that, because the curtain was, peeled back or pulled back. And a lot of parents were starting to see what was really happening in our schools. So COVID, while it was a bad thing, it was also a blessing in disguise, because it showed people what was really going on in the classrooms. And so again, we're in a cushion zone. We're in kind of a bubble here in Florida, because we have our great governor who shielded us from a lot of things. But when you think about like New York City, you think about Chicago, California, they're just the states of New York and California, they haven't been to school in like 2 years. So you're talking about serious deficiencies, serious setbacks for the students, not to mention the emotional component of it, the mental component of it. Students are, they're social, right? Kids are social. They have to be able to communicate with their peers, and not just on their phones. They have to be in person, especially in those teenage years when everything is developing and changing in the brain. They need that emotional social connection. And when they don't get that, we've seen horrific stories, unfortunately, of students taking their lives or attempting to take their lives because of that. So this issue is big on so many levels. Now, it's not more important than our national security, but it is a very serious issue. So I say that first because I'm a teacher. I would say that's one of the three. The next thing I would say is the national security issue of closing our borders and securing our borders, because with the borders being open, we're seeing fentanyl come across and in high doses. There was a story on Fox News not too long ago. 17-year-old boy, he thought he was taking a Percocet and he was taking fentanyl, and he died. And so so it's this fentanyl streaming across the border, and it's literally killing American citizens. So that if we close the border, we'll be able to deal with the drug crisis. We also will be able to deal with the human trafficking crisis, which prior to the open borders of the Biden administration, the statistics were 300,000 victims are trafficked through human trafficking across our southern border. That was before the borders were opened. So can you imagine what the number is now? I know statistically they say the border patrol agents, they only catch 1 in 4 terrorists. Only 1 in 4 they catch and apprehend. And last year they had something like 20 something terrorists that they apprehended. So it's 4 times that amount that actually came through. So these are the types of things that we need to settle in regards to our national security. So we do that by closing those borders and securing those borders, finishing the wall. The wall's already been paid for. It's not xenophobic. It's not racist to close our border. There's many nations in the world that have borders around their country just because we live in a different day and time. I mean, the people that are coming across our borders are not from Latin America or South America. They're from other countries. They're from terrorist nations. So we must secure our borders to secure our people, and that will stop that. It will stop the human trafficking. So I want to say here, because I love Christine Kane. She started the A21 organization that works tirelessly to end human trafficking. So when it first came on the scene, the numbers were 27 million victims, right? It's upwards 40, pushing 50 million victims now. And just to put that in perspective for the voters, here's the history teacher in me, but it's very important for them to know, because I tell my students this. To put that in perspective, the African slave trade was anywhere between 12 and 15 million victims. All right, 12 and 15 million victims in the African slave trade. And everybody hated African slavery. It's still a hot topic debate today, even though it's 400 years, long gone. But consider this, 12 to 15 million versus 40 million victims today. Slavery is still alive and well, unfortunately, and it should not be. And we need to get angry and upset about it. We don't need to be angry and upset about what happened 400 years ago, because that's gone. We cannot do anything about that. But we need to be 21st century abolitionists, and we need to rise up and stand with and defend, these people that are being trafficked. And by the way, trafficked individuals are largely women and children, and it's usually for sexual servitude. There's indentured servitude that's involved as well. There's child soldiers as well, but the largest amount of it is sexual servitude, and against their will. So we need, that's the number 2 thing, or that's 2 of the 3. Okay. So securing our borders to stop the drug trafficking and the human trafficking. And even I would say there's another element in there, is the criminal activity, because we've got criminal activity coming across the border too, with the drug cartels, the gang violence that's coming, with there. I know, we heard MS-13 over and over and over again with President Trump. And it's true. When you talk to ranchers on the southern border, they're having to walk out of their house with their shotguns or their pistols just to be safe on their own private property, because they've got all kinds of crazy things happening on their property from the people streaming across the borders that seek to do Americans harm. Listen, I'm not against immigration. I'm 3rd generation immigrant. My people came from Europe, right? And so the thing is this, is there's a right way to do it. There's a legal way to do it. And it's afforded in the Constitution. I teach my civic students this. It's called naturalization through immigration, or immigration through naturalization. And so there is a legitimate way to do it. And like I tell my students, there's even other aspects to help people that are in crisis. Like if someone's in a war, they can come, and they don't have to do the immigration part of it. They can, come and seek sanctuary, or like with the 2011, I think it was in 2011, the earthquake in Haiti, the first big one. We welcomed a bunch of Haitians into the nation to say, you're here, you have a time frame to be here, to either, establish your citizenship here in America, or at the end of this time frame, you've got to go back to Haiti. And it was that, like a time frame to say, okay, we're going to help you in this time of crisis. So the United States is very good about opening its arms to immigrants, but it's got to be done legally. And then the third thing I would say is our energy crisis. And the order you put these in is up to you, right? Because it's going to vary depending on the voter and the constituent. Like a lot of our voters are probably going to put energy as number one, because they're having to fill up their tanks, and they're having to choose, do I put gas in my car, or do I get groceries on the table? And I know that's very real for people, especially in one income households. It's very tough. You've got some parents working 2 and 3 jobs just to be able to survive in this economy. So energy is connected to multiple things. The economy is connected to it, and the supply chain is connected to it. And so with the energy, if we get our energy back on track, what's going to happen, and it'll take time. I don't want people to think it's going to be a, flip the switch and it's done, because we've really got ourselves into this mess with overspending. Congress has been overspending, like they're writing blank checks left and right. like money is just, proverbially growing on trees, and that's not how it works. The American people are hurting and cannot afford to keep, this money going. So if we can get the energy back on track, and how do we do that? We open up those pipelines that the Biden administration closed on day one. We reopen the pipeline to Canada, and we get the oil flowing again. So everybody remembers Sarah Palin, right? Drill, baby, drill. That's exactly what we need to do. We get the oil flowing. It's going to bring those gas prices down. The economy will start to stabilize. Of course, we got to stop the fiscal irresponsibility in Congress as well. That's part of that component. And then our supply chain will start to settle too. Because just think about, gas is passed on to everything, right? Truck drivers filling up their semis, they've got to pass those charges on to us when they're delivering our goods. It's a domino effect. It gets passed down the line. Somebody's got to pay for it. So it's the American consumer that has to pay for it. So as we get the energy back online, we get back to energy independence, energy dominance. It'll be kind of a trickle down domino effect where things will start to calm down and settle back down. So I would say those are the top 3 issues: the energy issue, the border crisis, which is national security, and education, because now more than ever, parents have seen just how bad it's been.
Thank you. And thank you for all of the detail in your answers.
You're welcome.
So what do you consider the biggest challenge of the position you're running for? So running for Congress, what do you think will be your biggest challenge?
So the biggest challenge is the name recognition component, because I'm just a teacher in Polk County. I'm not a celebrity. I don't have that, my name isn't in lights kind of a thing. So I'm up against someone with name recognition that really, truly, honestly doesn't belong in this county, because he lives in District 15. But for some reason, he decided that he was going to run in District 18. I don't know. I live in District 18, so I don't understand that, because I know the Constitution says that you have to live in the district where you represent. And I am sitting in my house inside of District 18. So anyway, so the biggest challenge is going up against that name recognition component. And I guess with the name recognition comes, I don't want to call it celebrity status, but it's like a notoriety, because oftentimes what happens with voters is they want to just look for a name that's familiar to them, or sometimes they'll look for, the letter R, Republican, or D, Democrat, whatever it is they're after in terms of voting, they'll look for that as opposed to maybe taking the time to do the research, do the homework, look up those candidates, look at those voter guides, and see, the difference between, the different candidates. And right now, more than ever, voters need to do their homework. I know they don't want to hear that, but as a teacher, I'm telling you guys, you've got to do your homework, because there is a difference between candidates. And like I tell my students, I never tell my students how to vote. I never tell them how I vote. They ask me. Oh my gosh, they ask me. They're trying to get it out of me all the time. Of course, if they look at me on social media, then they'll know, right? But I don't advertise that in my classroom, because that's my personal life. I don't mix that with my teaching. But the thing is, I say, listen, you have to vote based on your values and your beliefs. So you want to vote for a candidate that's closest to how you think and feel. And so that's exactly what needs to happen. We don't need to be voting for a name just because it's that name, right? We need to be looking into the people, into their background, and saying, okay, are they an America First patriot? Are they really the true definition of a conservative? Are they, let's look, if they're someone who's been in office, let's look at their voting record. Have they voted in line with my values and my beliefs? Because that's so important. We cannot just put somebody back in there because they have that name. They have to be looked at. They have to be scrutinized. And I know that's not popular with the establishment. I've come up against that. And I've had people tell me that I shouldn't be running against establishment candidates. And I say, show me where that is in the Constitution. And you know what? They can't, because it doesn't exist. That wasn't the purpose of our founding fathers did not have that mindset. They were like, look, you're going to come from your everyday life. You're going to serve the people, govern well, go back to your life. The next group of people come in. And so I want to encourage people to look up their candidates. There's plenty of voter guides out there that they can look at. They can go to the candidates' websites. There's voter guides being put out locally as well by different organizations. Please, 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 if you hear me say nothing else today, please do your homework. This teacher is asking you to do your homework, and I'm sorry, I'll give you extra credit or whatever. I don't know. You got to do your homework, because you have to know, you have to be able to vote based on your beliefs and your values. And if money, your tax dollars and mine, you shouldn't be voting for them again. Because I will say there is a candidate in District 18 that has wasted $1.5 trillion of our American dollars, and another $53 billion of our American dollars. And that is over, listen, do the math. I'm not a math teacher, but that's over $11,000 per voter. So if you're a husband and wife that's watching me right now, that's $11,000 for you, sir, and $11,000 for you, ma'am. And Wendy had to pay $11,000, right? And you had to pay $11,000. We all had to pay over $11,000. So please do your homework. Please, please, please.
So is there anything you want to add for why voters should choose you over any other candidate? I think you covered it a little bit in that last question, but any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Absolutely. So I'll just kind of reiterate it and kind of tie it up in a nice little package. I am grassroots as they come. I've never run for political office ever before. I take my as citizen very seriously, and I also take the fact that I'm a servant leader very seriously, because at the end of the day, I have to look myself in the mirror, I have to lay my head on the pillow, and I have to answer to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, right? So I have to answer to him for what I do. And if I don't do the right thing, there's going to be repercussions, right? So I need to do the right thing. I need to be held accountable. And so I take that very seriously. So I am going to be the Congresswoman for the people of District 18 that will be truthful to them, honest with them, will meet with them. I'm not going to just take their vote and run and never see them again, or never call them again, or hear from them again. Just send out one email once in a blue moon, like one of my opponents has done. That's not me. I'm very social. I'm very relational. You can probably tell that from my personality. I don't disappear. I don't like, that's not the job. It's not govern well, to serve your public. I'm not beneath that. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And like I said, I have a plan on district weeks to spend it with, we the people, with my constituents in District 18 across all 8 counties, because it's a big district. So I'm going to have to, organize that. I'll be in Okeechobee today. I'll be down in Glades tomorrow. Up in Haines City. I'll just have to keep moving around to meet everybody. And I'm going to have open communication. I want one of the things I remember from visiting Washington, D.C. myself, is going to my representative's office and being able to take that picture with them in their office, and then doing that congressional tour that they set up for us. At the time, I was a teacher in Charleston, South Carolina, and I chaperoned the Navy junior ROTC group to Washington, D.C. And that was amazing. Like you felt like, okay, you're my representative and you really are happy that I'm here. You took the time to meet me in your office, take a picture with me, and talk with me, right? That means so much when people are personable and relatable with you. And to me, money doesn't matter. I don't care, and I'm the type of person, because remember, I grew up in New York. My formative years were from New York. So I have this tenacity and this grit. I don't like, I'm not going to be bought. Whenever somebody comes to say, well, will you do such and such? If here's a purse string here for you. If you want this, you got to do that. I'm going to say, listen, the old New York in me is going to say, go pound salt. Because that's not how I work. I'm hired by the people. My salary is paid for by the people through American tax dollars. I answer to my people. I do not answer to PACs, to political whatevers. I don't answer to, no, I don't answer to lobbyists. I'm not hired by them. I'm hired by the people. And so I want to do what's right by the people, and not only govern well, but spend their money well. So I won't be sending their money overseas. Americans are hurting. Americans need to be taken care of first. Our veterans need to be taken care of. We need more school safety. I want to put veterans in our schools. In Florida, we have a pretty good program, but across the nation, I want to put veterans in the schools. We need to impeach the current administration, including the Senate Majority Leader and the Speaker of the House. They've all done impeachable offenses, so they got to go. They got to go. We got to get a new breed in there that's we the people, and we're going to be there to save our nation. We're going to save our nation together. So, I mean, what you see in here right now is the real authentic me. So, like, I'm going and doing meet and greets with people around the district, and I'm going to people's houses. People are texting me on my cell phone. I'm like, okay, wow, she's giving me her cell phone. Yeah, because I'm not a rock star. I don't have to have this greater than thou attitude. No. I'm here to serve you. So you're going to be able to, contact me. Maybe once it's everybody, I can't take everybody's cell phone number, but I want to be able to, say, hey, we're going to get back in touch with people. We're not going to just leave people high and dry.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy, for choosing to do a video with us. We are thrilled to be able to share each of our candidates' messages on our social media platforms and on YouTube. So thank you for taking some time with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.